And the frequency as you approach that place is just spectacular. I can't even describe it. It's almost like the air is thick with frequency, even sort of up to, I would say, an hour and a half's drive away from the actual site itself. So it's not even on the horizon. You can't see it, but you can feel it in the air.
Hello, everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. Welcome back to a new episode. Please visit spiritualinspired.ca, gnostic.com, and YouTube for older episodes. My guest today is Aeron Lazar. Aeron, thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome. Great to connect with you here today.
And you are in Costa Rica these days. And do you plan to make Costa Rica your base for foreseeable future?
Oh, definitely. Sorry, I got distracted. There's a bird that's just in, probably attracted by the frequency. But yes, definitely. Costa Rica, I've got a lovely saying. We were drawn to this part of the world, and for a long time we were searching. We've lived all around the world, lived in Australia, lived in Europe, and then in 2021 came to Central America here. Which was a big step for us. We were drawn by the frequency of the place, and but a long time we were searching. And I remember, goodness me, we like to travel, and I think it was sort of about 2 years ago, something like this. We were coming back from the States on a visit, and I remember for the first time when we were descending into San Jose, the capital. I got that kind of feeling like I was coming home, and that was the first time I felt that in years. So it's like, I had this saying. I said to my wife that Costa Rica isn't our place, but it's the place for us, and that's just how I feel. It's welcomed us. I'll be forever grateful for everything that this country's provided. It's fantastic. Highly recommended if anybody fancies a visit.
Beautiful. And in fact, I think someone is building a Yoko village in Costa Rica where you can buy your piece of land, build your house, and live off land, off grid pretty much. And we tried as a family in 2021, Panama. It didn't work out. When you have kids and you bring them along, sometimes, they cannot adjust to the new environment, especially when they leave friends behind. And you always have that dreadful feeling that they are missing something, and you have to go back at one point.
Yeah, I think it's difficult when if you've got kids that are in the picture. There's more than sort of yourselves to consider. This is the thing, and I think probably looking back, they'll have memories of it, and the chapter that you were there probably will have created some great experiences and great memories for them. But I understand it myself, and my wife don't have children. So we're flexible. We've got since we've come here, actually, we've now got 3 rescue dogs. So we're massive animal lovers, and we donate to animal charities and things like that. But it was quite interesting because the animals here in Costa Rica tend to find you, and they are 3 street dogs basically. So we've took them in, and now we have a house full. So it's beautiful.
Nice. And Aeron, you are a powerful energy worker, a starseed, and a spiritual teacher with full-blown interdimensional gifts. And on a previous discussion with Ria, which is your wife, you are kind of a power energy couple. She mentioned a little bit about your energy when you went to visit Uluru in Australia. But I would really like to hear your point of view, because you guys come from different perspectives, different energies.
Yeah, for sure. That was on a trip in the middle of COVID, actually, in Australia. So at the time, Australia had locked its borders. So traveling was quite difficult. If you were going anywhere, it was a one-way ticket. They wouldn't have allowed you back into the country. So we thought, okay, there's that saying, isn't there, which is quite cliche, but I quite like it, which is when life throws you lemons, just make lemonade, make the best of what you've got, right? So it was like, okay, well, if we can't go traveling, let's go on an adventure. And that's basically what we did. So we did 33,000 kilometers working from the road, sleeping in a rooftop tent, hosting client sessions from a laptop, hotspotting in caravan parks. And we just went around the place, and it was like, heck it. And one of the places we went to was Uluru in the center. And I'm really sensitive to energy. It's something I've been born with. It's in my birth chart. It's an astrological thing. I've always had a really kind of strong connection to spirit and to the quantum field and things. And so I'm very sensitive to energy. I always have been. And the frequency as you approach that place is just spectacular. I can't even describe it. It's almost like the air is thick with frequency, even sort of up to, I would say, an hour and a half's drive away from the actual site itself. So it's not even on the horizon. You can't see it, but you can feel it in the air. Special place. And then when we got there, it was just phenomenal. It's hard to even put Earth language onto what that experience was like. It was like a full body experience, energetic experience. And then what's interesting is Uluru itself is quite feminine. It's got feminine frequency. And then there's another range which is called Katajuta, which is in the distance, and that's actually got masculine energy. And it's almost like the masculine range, mountain range, is almost looking after or guarding Uluru or protecting Uluru. It's phenomenal, amazing balance of energies. And you can absolutely tell why it's a sacred site to the indigenous people who are now the custodians of it. But, it's just a phenomenal, phenomenal place. And in many ways, if people are looking for a recharge, if people are looking to supercharge their consciousness, amplify their third eye, etc., go spend time in these places. And Uluru is one, but you could go, there's other chakra points around the earth that you could go to. I've been to some super highly charged energetic sites on the Yucatan Peninsula, the Mayan pyramid sites. There's one in particular called Ekbalam. It's not as busy as Chichen Itza, but I felt more energetically powerful. But go and spend time at these sites. They're absolutely superb. But I love Uluru, and I would definitely go back.
Yes, I recently visited Chichen Itza, and it's so touristic and so commercial that I couldn't find a spot to sit and meditate peacefully because it's so much traffic. I was just able to make a quick offering at one of the corners of the pyramid, and that's it. But other than that, you just cannot find peace there,
No.
I think, to connect deeply with the place.
How many times did you get offered a sombrero when you were there? Anytime. And local people are just trying to make a living. So it's my heart goes out to every single person. But one of the things I'll share with you is just some of the insights that I got when we visited these Mayan sites in the Yucatan Peninsula. Very, very strong places. And these Mayan pyramid sites are almost built in a grid. And they're built around, the sack bays that they've got there, which is like the underground water pool.
Yes.
A lot of these are like natural portals. And again, if you're sensitive to frequency, you can feel it coming up out of the ground. And what they used to do is they used to build these white roads, basically. I think they're called sack bay, I think, these roads. And I think that they contain things like silica. And it's a very conductive material. And actually, they were building ley lines. And I was actually given a massive download when I was there. And these roads are channeling almost like cables for electricity. They're channeling this frequency into the main pyramid sites and then straight up the main pyramid. And it's phenomenal. But what I was shown is that Chichen Itza is one of the main ones, but it's almost like, because there's, that 3D behavior that you're seeing there, you just, people clapping and,
Yes.
making steel noises and all of this. It's just become a bit of a circus there. And what I was shown is that used to be a very, very powerful site, but all of this kind of heavy 3D activity that's going on has almost kind of like drained the energy from it a bit. And you would have noticed yourself that it's difficult to feel the energy there. It's not that strong. And that's because of all of that activity. If you wanted a really, really super, super strong experience, Ekbalam is the place to go, honestly. And it's just you'd need to go and stay overnight in a place called Valladolid, which is very, very pretty town, just overnight there. Very nice. Some nice boutiques and shopping if that's what you're kind of into. Nice square that you can sit in. And it's about an hour, I think, hour's drive from there. But that site knocked my socks off. Ekbalam, E-K, and then second word B-A-L-A-M, Ekbalam. It's sensational.
Yeah, we did visit it Valladolid on our way back, and people tried to sell us silver and tequila, of course. And I'm not a drinker, so they had no chance with me. But what's different between Chichen Itza and Tulum is that in Tulum they are not allowed. The vendors are not allowed inside the site. So there, I think the energy is preserved much better. But in Chichen Itza, I was amazed that every single side inside the historical grounds has vendors,
Yes.
and that's a little bit, again, I feel for them. I understand that they want to sell. I'm amazed that they can make a living with so many of them, offering pretty much the same merchandise, which is
Yeah, exactly.
amazing. Is They are so creative and talented.
Yeah.
You just cannot carry everything you love to buy with you back home.
I know, and
But
it's just comes down to again sustainability, doesn't it? And I remember hearing a saying that tourists ruin the very thing that they go looking for, basically in time, And I think it's such a precious site, and the architecture and stuff that's at that site's like phenomenal. When you walk around and see the observatory and what they actually built at that time, and it's just an absolutely phenomenal story. Maybe in time, I think, maybe the government could bring in some rules or regulate it a little bit just to try and bring it back. But yeah, it was intense to say the least.
yes, and I saw the other temples which are
Mhm.
surrounding the main pyramid, and I think not all those locations have been archaeologically, brought up or anything specific from scientific perspective. I think they can find much more artifacts if they will have the funds and the desire to go deeper.
Oh, definitely. I'm sure there's so much discover, so much to explore, and I'm sure there's still some mysteries to uncover at these sites.
Aaron, going back to Uluru for a second, do you know if the Aboriginals are still allowed to hold ceremonies on the grounds of Uluru?
I think, and again, again, I'm just speaking from my own perspective. I would need to check it. I'm under the impression, or of the impression, that the Aboriginals there actually make the rules there now, because they used to be, so they're kind of in charge of it. So it used to be the other way around. And what used to happen is all the tourists were climbing up the rock, which is almost like desecrating one of their most sacred sites. And now tourists are not allowed. There's a fence, there's a barrier and sign saying that people can't climb, which I think is a good thing. People shouldn't be crawling like ants all over it. But you can still get the experience. So I think also that there are some ceremonies that are conducted there. I haven't partaken in any myself personally, but I've heard of these ceremonies taking place. Yes.
Wonderful. Yes, I will love to go there next year and experience all these high energetic sites. I might need 3 weeks or 4. We'll see if
Yeah.
the spirits will work with me on that for
Hmm.
sure. And I know you work heavily with the Arcturians, and I would like to know what was your reaction when they first contacted you?
Well, this ties into Uluru because it was almost as if that charged my consciousness up. And it was with this, I want to say extra power, extra charge, the only way to describe it, is where in a meditation then, a few days later, I actually connected to the Arcturians for the first time. And the only way I can describe it to you is it was like reconnecting with family. So that feeling that you get in your heart center where, let's say you've not seen your family for a long time and you've been away traveling, let's, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, and then you come back and they're waiting for you at the arrivals hall and you get that first embrace and you feel it. Yeah, you feel it in the stomach and in the heart. This is how it felt. So it felt like I was connecting to family. And it was just undeniable. And it was at this point I started to get these downloads and sort of understanding that, this is where I came from. So I'm an Arcturian starseed. And then what was super interesting then was I just wanted to kind of hang out with them because, every time I went there, it was like the first time I'd ever experienced anything like it before. So I was like, wow, I just kind of wanted to be there all the time in my mind, And then I kind of spent time studying with them. They were giving me upgrades. They were teaching me things. They were sharing technology. They were sharing their frequency in relation to certain modalities. And then it was quite interesting. I kind of got kicked out to the multiverse by them because they said to me, they said, look, we love you being here. We love you spending time. But in order for you to develop and to have a full consciousness experience, it's probably a good idea if you go out and meet some of the other races. I was like, oh, okay then. And it kind of felt I was being pushed out in the best way possible. It's like, it wasn't like, please leave. I was always, it was amazing it always is amazing to connect to them. But it was almost like just an encouragement. Go on, try and meet. So from that point, I was off to the races then because I thought, okay, who do I want to go and meet? Okay, I've heard a lot about the Pleiadians. So I was like, okay. And I'm trying to put Earth language on a consciousness experience is sort of difficult sometimes, but I'm going to try my best on how this was. So it was like when I've been somewhere with my consciousness once, it's almost like I have a GPS to go there again. So I can go anywhere I want to in the field instantly. But when you're going somewhere for the first time, it's almost like going into the dark and trying to find these places. And it's like, I say to people, like a nice analogy was, if I took you to a city that you've never been to before, and I took away the phone, took away all contact, you couldn't ask anybody directions, and dropped you in the center and said, okay, can you go and find me this deli sandwich shop? And you would kind of just be wandering around for a while. But the next time we go back, I say, oh, could you go and find that? You'd know exactly where to go. So it's kind of like that with consciousness. And so I remember sort of it was almost like pushing through the darkness to get there. And then bang, I connected to what I now know to be the Pleiadians. And then the first thing I noticed was how different the frequency signature was. So, each extraterrestrial race has their own frequency signature. So Syrians feel very different to Arcturians, feel very different to Pleiadians, different to Orions, to Andromedans, etc., etc. And that's the first thing that struck me. So Pleiadians are extremely high frequency beings of light compared to the Arcturians, And so I was like, okay, there's a different signature here. And it was so strong when I first connected into it. I had no tolerance for the frequency. And I just almost uncontrollably was whooping and clapping and almost doing cartwheels around the limit. It was like a frequency party. I'm okay with it now. I'm a bit used to it when I connect to it. And then from there, I just kind of went out. I've always, and it's just a personal choice. I know that we live in a duality reality and there are races of all polarities. We all play every single role. However, a personal choice, I've just sort of maintained a desire only to connect to races that are, as a minimum, neutral in polarity or positive and of the light. So I avoid all the negative ones. I don't go there. There was, I think, the Draconians at one point tried to make contact. I was like, same with the reptilians. I was like, not interested, go away. And I just wanted to focus on that. So yeah, it's a journey of discovery. And I'm sure there's still hundreds and hundreds of races to meet. So it's a huge multiverse out there.
Yes, beautiful. And I think the Arcturians are kind of entry level for some of us because I work right now with the Arcturian Council of Light. This is what they kind of identify themselves through the activation I received through an Arcturian related meditation. And it's a one-way energy-wise from them to me. And maybe thinking is one way from me to them. I don't have that connection right now from them in my mind to understand a specific message. Maybe sometimes comes as a hint, and this is how I mention it to those who are interested in finding out. But again, to me, is this prep time, and looks like Arcturians come to people much more often and to prepare them for their journey than any other race.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be forever grateful for that connection, because, like I say, it was the feeling like I reconnected with family. It was special. I always remember that moment. And if it wasn't for their encouragement, I don't know if I would have gone down the path to connect to different races. And I've worked a lot with the Syrians, the Andromedans. They've just blessed us with so much knowledge, so much insight, so much technology. And some of the technology and frequency we've adapted into modalities that at the time that we started to do this didn't even exist. And I was like, I'll give you an example. I started off with the Syrians that shared technology around healing people's emotional pain and trauma with channeled galactic frequency. That wasn't even a thing. And believe me, I looked for it, because I was like, okay, well, if I've been able to do this on myself, I'm going to see who else is doing this, because I want to connect to them. I couldn't find a single person. And that modality now has healed thousands and upon thousands of people's pain and trauma, emotional pain and trauma. What it does effectively, and it's not just the Syrians you can take this from, because depending on the strength of it, you can take it from the Pleiadians, you can take it from the Syrians, you can take it from the Arcturians actually as well. And what it does is, in a very controlled manner, you can open up somebody's energetic field consciously and administer this channel frequency from the collective consciousness grid of the extraterrestrial race. Frequency comes into the field. After that transmission is complete, you close the field back down, just for just from a protocol perspective. And what then happens is a person, this is sitting then within a person's electromagnetic field, and it starts to stimulate all the pain frequency that the muscles and the tissue are holding on to, because our bodies are like hard drives for pain frequency. And it stimulates what we call the emotional purge. And so you can administer this over the course of weeks, but what tends to happen is somebody's emotional healing journey that may have taken decades. It depends on what people go through. This incarnation is tough. This density is tough, isn't it? You can condense somebody's healing journey maybe from a couple of decades down into weeks or months. So it's absolutely profound. So I've been blessed beyond belief to work with galactics and galactic frequency and things like that. So,
and at this point, can you do this or facilitate the healing to a group level, or do you still have to go individually?
No, I can do it. We can. In fact, when you do it with a group, it's stronger, because when you've got people who gather together with collective intent, everything becomes amplified. It's why, say, covenant prayer is the most powerful prayer out there. Everybody with the same intention at the same time, doing the same thing. It amplifies things. So if anything, it's actually more powerful within a group. And frequency carries across through technology, through the airwaves. So it doesn't even need to be in person. You can do it remotely anywhere in the world. We don't run retreats. We don't run events, physical events. We've got all of the base ingredients to put on an incredible retreat here in Costa Rica. You can't quite see it, but usually it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Got a bit of bad weather at the moment. But it's just, for us, we just love the solitude. We love the tranquility. We love the peace. And I love being able to close the laptop and just be back in peace again. So to answer your question, I can do it individually. We facilitate it within groups. We've got annual programs, group programs that we take people through. That's healing is a big part of one of those programs that we do. So yes, within a group, it's actually stronger. It's far more amplified in a group.
Yeah, I'm at the beginning of this journey, and what I do is, and what happened to me, and this was the feedback I gave to the person who needed the healing, was that the energy is so intelligent that it gathered around the organ or the part of the body who
Yeah.
needed healing. And I
Yeah.
just sat behind and watch it. And I did a little bit of tweaking. Again, everything it came through me, like, not using my mind. And when I relayed the message, so yes, in fact, I suffer of such and such and such. And it was okay, nice, beautiful. Is the confidence I have to gain and the feedback I need in order to gain more confidence, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's you know, and it's the same for anybody watching this. You've got to have ultimate faith in your consciousness and your own ability, because we're all infinite, divine, powerful, spiritual, energetic beings that whose minds create reality. Well, then, you know, what is reality? What is matter? It's just energy, frequency, and vibration extrapolated, isn't it? And so, you know, we're just able to work metaphysically other than physically. But it's you know, when you actually see the physical results manifest from the metaphysical work, it's undeniable. So, you know, frequency, you know, I think the results kind of speak for themselves, and it's becoming more mainstream. But definitely, I think, you know, anybody who is just getting into consciousness and working with frequency, etc., you've got to trust it unequivocally, because it'll never let you down,
Yes.
ever, you know. Well, I tell you, you know, I've been misled by human beings, but I've never been misled by frequency. So, you know, I absolutely trust energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah. And based on your experience, are these races like the Arcturian Council of Light or the Pleiadians, are they somewhere in the orbit in cloaked spaceship? And this is from where they send us their frequency, vibration, and messages, or they are even farther into the galaxy?
No, so they're typically around their home planets. That's where they are. So where they reside is these races are interdimensional. So, you know, just for anybody listening, the easiest way to describe a dimension is a frequency band. So it's like the equivalent of I like to use the analogy of like a radio station. So, you know, the old analog sort of tuner on a radio. And, you know, around, you might be listening to one particular station, you'd be tuned into one station, but there's probably hundreds playing across the airways. You just can't hear it because you're not tuned into it. Well, all of these dimensions are just like frequency bands or radio stations that playing around us all the time. And it's just that we are perceiving this one with our physical eyes. So it's kind of these other dimensions they're just these realities are just vibrating at a rate that we just don't perceive. So it seems invisible to us, but it's there. You know, it's if we were to vibrate and be in resonance with that, then that would appear very, very much physical, just like this. So they are coming back to your question. Every time I've connected to them, their collective consciousness grid always sits around their planet, just like humanity has got a collective consciousness grid around the planet.
Mm.
You know, you can, and this is where we would feel on Earth, sometimes we can feel collective tension. You can feel tension within society sometimes. It's the collective consciousness grid that we're feeling. Around the holiday season, there's that magic in the air because the kids are excited, everybody's off work, everybody's having a good time. You can feel it's like people say there's magic in the air. People are just tuned into the collective consciousness. So we've got one here too. So every single race has one, and typically, my perspective when I connect to it, it's sitting around their planet. So it's not so much that you connect to them and they're in cloaked ships around this planet. I'm sure there are parts of their race that are doing that, but the collective consciousness itself sits around the planet, and that's what me personally, anyway, would connect to.
Yeah. And, you know, I try to recommend to some friends and other acquaintances the same meditation that activated me with the Arcturian Council of Light. And some of them are quite afraid because I tell them what the reaction of my body was. And what would you recommend to those that are afraid to try and experience this amazing frequency?
Well, in the first instance, I would say the first thing to do, just trying to, and again, all of this is channeled. I'm just talking to spirit here a second just to get some guidance. I think probably the best thing to do to begin with is to make sure that you're fully protected. That's the thing to do. So the first thing when you're going into the quantum field or experiencing frequency, you need to be spiritually dressed. You need to be properly protected. So, you wouldn't, I mean, and unfortunately, as human beings, we apply logic and common sense to the physical, but not to the metaphysical. So it's like, if I say to people, if you were living in the middle of New York, would you just walk out of your apartment and down the street naked? You wouldn't, would you? You'd have clothes on and you'd be dressed. It's common sense. But we don't apply common sense to metaphysical. And so we need to make sure that we're dressed. We need to make sure that we're protected. So always make sure that you're shielded and protected. And in relation to the frequency, etc., it's just go and experience it. It's kind of there's nothing as long as you're I mean, don't again, I don't want to put people off, but I call the quantum field the playground for consciousness. Okay, so what do we do? And I use language intentionally. So why do I call it a playground? So what do we do in a playground? We go in and have fun. Yeah. So it's a case of going in and exploring. However, like any playground, there are all kinds of people within there. So you've got probably within the playground the kids that would steal your lunch and kind of, stick you in a headlock and stuff. And then you've got the nice kids that you would want to hang out with. It's no different in the quantum field. You've got races, entities of all polarities. And so just make sure what it is that you're connecting to is always of the light and of the highest vibration. Your gut feeling will tell you that.
Yes.
If you're connecting to something which feels off, or it's like, oh, hang on, there's little spidey senses, just give it a wide berth. Always stick to the light, you'll be fine, and always make sure that you're protected. But have no fear. Have no fear.
Yes, pretty much. This is what I say. I surrender only to God's love and light and nothing else, and whatever is in my greatest for my greatest purpose and advancement. So I think that is part of what we should say.
Absolutely.
Stay protected. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know Ria speaks 20 plus light languages. Do you speak any, or she compensates for you?
Oh, she compensates really for me. I don't know. I don't know how she does it. It's almost like her first lifetime was as an Akashic keeper. So she's got this kind of Akashic blueprint that sits within her field. And I don't know if it's because she's got this Akashic blueprint, her consciousness has got access to all of this stuff, but it's almost like a computer system in there, and everything is just organized. And I've never seen a talent like it. So I'll give you, for instance, she doesn't just channel the light languages, she channels the languages of the lands. So when we were in Broome in Australia, that was on a different road trip to the Uluru trip. But she was able to channel it's almost like the indigenous songs within the land. That's the only way I can say to you. And I've spoken to indigenous aunties and elders, and they do this thing called singing up the land. They sing up the land. So they tell the stories and they sing this frequency into the land. So the land is infused with this frequency. And it's almost like she was able to tap into this body of energy and start to channel it. In many ways, there was another, I remember when we came into the Yucatan Peninsula, different situation, same outcome. We were flying into Cancun airport and we were coming over, and obviously the landmass is very, very flat when you come in. You can see it in the distance approaching. And as we were coming in, she started to tune in and started to connect to this. And it sounded like jeux and jeux. And I was like, okay. And she was just channeling it. And this is that language of the land, like an indigenous language. And then we got there and started reading the road signs, and there were all these jeux and jeux of exactly how she'd said it as she was coming in. So she's a phenomenon. We call her the galactic linguist. She just kind of it's never ending with her.
And how it is to work with her and have this type of synergy with your own wife on the same path.
Amazing. So if you look at our birth charts, and we've had astrologers look at this, we've got the highest level of compatibility of birth charts. So we just fit together perfectly. So she is strong in the areas that I'm not so strong, and I'm strong in the areas that she's not so strong. So together we're pretty awesome. So I've got access to her frequency, her perspective, the way that she sort of organizes everything meticulously. And then she has access to my consciousness. So we've got each other on tap, and it just works really well. So we do our own stuff. We also run programs and stuff together, sort of in a collaborative way. So it works, works really, really well.
So do you communicate telepathically as well?
We sense and feel, yeah. So it's not a case of we would sit there and just have a conversation, but it's almost sometimes we know what each other is thinking, but we can certainly sense and feel emotions. So, we're very, very connected energetically like that. So it's almost like there are two energetic fields, but there's just one big one really with us. So yeah,
Yes.
we can definitely tell what each other is thinking, definitely.
It's beautiful. And now that you are in this amazing place, Costa Rica, that entices you to stay in nature pretty much every single minute of the day, has your daily spiritual practice changed since you arrive in the country?
Yes, my daily sort of spiritual practice sounds like that sort of conjures up thoughts of being up on some spiritualist retreat up on top of a hill and meditating every day. It's kind of for me, the quantum field and this reality is fluid. So I've got such a vivid consciousness. I can sort of zone in and zone out of the quantum field at will. So I can be driving, sitting on an aircraft. Just in a second now, I could drift off and be within the quantum field. So as far as meditation is concerned, it's not something that I've ever needed to do. I'm able to reach the quantum field quite easily. So as my spiritual practice is, I guess, is working with clients and sort of working with our membership and our sessions and sort of growing and developing in that way, as opposed to sort of meditating. As far as other forms of practice, we're very, very aware of frequency and energy. So we try and keep the place here energetically protected, energetically clean. And it's one of the reasons why we like the solitude. There's a lot going on energetically in metropolitan areas and things like this. Like I say, it's very, very busy energetically. So, we love the peace, we love the calm, we love the tranquility, and that connection being in nature kind of provides it for us. Also feel a deep connection to the ancestors here in this part of Costa Rica. And they've blessed us, they've protected us, they provided for us, and I'll always, always be grateful. So rather than having sort of specific practices, it's more like an embodied spiritual experience, really, day to day. So it's really, really cool.
Yes, and you just mentioned the ancestors, and early today I
Hmm.
interviewed an elder Mandaza from Zimbabwe, and
Wow.
he's well versed in the water spirits and working with the ancestors. And we talk about how we can bring the children on the spiritual path and turn them into healers of the earth and of other and future generations. And he said that they are our future. It's very hard to work on the existing, political figures or other on the existing parents even, but we have to focus on the children. How do you think we can bring them into the spiritual fold and tell them about their ancestors, about what's important in life?
Well, I think society is changing. If you look at consciously where we are, energetically where we are as a collective today, as opposed to even 3 short decades ago, 4 short decades ago, go back to the 1970s and see collectively how it was. So I think we've come on leaps and bounds, and I think consciousness is evolving here on this planet. And I think that children, as they're born, are born with 5D consciousness. They're born with unconditional love, and children become products of their environment. They're a blank canvas, and so I think as society is changing, people are becoming more open-minded. And I think what is, or when you look at consciousness, which hasn't been so much mainstream in Western societies, I think is going to become sort of more mainstream. And in that way, children are going to learn consciousness skills and abilities, and they're going to be encouraged to develop their channel to the quantum field and things like this. And it's interesting, because we're educated depending where we are, depending where we're born, depending where we grow up, ends up that kind of impacts our perspective, because that, depends where we get educated within the world. If you look over to the East, for instance, metaphysics or energy over there is common. This is, where you look at the Chinese practices of Tai Chi, Qigong, you look at Chinese metaphysics, feng shui, they apply this in business all the time. They even have sort of feng shui, they have energetic conflicts within business. So, there was a story I heard where, and we've studied classical feng shui since 2017. So we live by these energetic principles. And there's an interesting story one of our masters told us about this conflict that went on between HSBC and Bank of China in Hong Kong. I think it's Hong Kong or Singapore, was one of these places. But HSBC had this big tower building. And obviously HSBC is a bank, and Bank of China built this tower block right next to it with the most aggressive architecture, which when you've got aggressive architectural forms, it creates something called Sha-Qi, which is sort of disruptive frequency. It damages and sort of breaks things up. And they were directing this Sha-Qi, Bank of China was, directly at the HSBC tower. HSBC then had to spend millions of dollars building energetic defenses to deflect this frequency away from it. So this goes on to this day. Most of central London is built to energetic principles, but most people don't know this. It's the same with property developments around the world. Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas was built to energetic principles. And it's just that the developers over in the West just use consultants from the East, but they just don't shout about it. So it's kind of, I think, frequency and energy is definitely more prevalent in the East than it is in the West. But I think, to answer your question, I think pretty soon it's going to be encompassing the world. And that obviously is going to affect the kids, because the kids then can step into their full power.
Yes, and I think we should bring them more into nature, into places like the one you live, and experience that beautiful interaction. And in fact, the town I live in just sent a request to the residents to come with suggestion on how should we use big space in our community. It's going to be a type of a park, but they said, okay, what other components do you want to include? And I want to submit a request for a community garden. And I want to see their reaction, because that would be amazing for the kids to get involved, to grow plants, fruits, and herbs, and give them the idea of this type of interaction.
And I think, nature is healing. It really is. And if the more that I've spent here in nature in Costa Rica, walking on the grass barefoot, just being surrounded by 1,500 different species of birds. You've got monkeys, you've got all kinds of stuff. It's one of the most biodiverse countries on earth. It's just, they've got this saying here for everything, which is pura vida, which is basically that can mean anything, by the way. You can, thank you, hello, just whatever. It's just pure life. Everything is just alive here. It's just fantastic. But what that does, when you can be in nature, it's got such a healing capacity, nature, because we're energetic beings, and we need to ground ourselves energetically. We need connection to the land. We need connection to the food that we eat. So, that's another thing that I really love about Costa Rica, is just how clean the food system is here, how nutritiously dense it is here. And, a lot of people, without even trying, when they come to Costa Rica, will lose weight. That's just, we came here from Australia, and I've dropped about 8 kilos. I've not tried, still doing the same things, just a better way of living, cleaner way of living. So I'm sure the community garden and the community park for the kids will be fantastic, and it'll be great for them to learn, and to connect how to grow vegetables, how to grow herbs, because the earth and the soil can provide everything for us. And it's once you sort of comprehend how to grow things, it's not that difficult. You know,
Yeah.
nature just does everything, you know, just a bit of sunshine, nutrients and water and magic happens, you know, it's fantastic. So
Yeah, the DNA is already encoded in the seed. All we have to do is to plant it, water it, and watch it grow.
how beautiful is that? You know, and there's nothing more satisfying than sort of eating food, nothing more rewarding actually than eating food that you've grown yourself, you know. So it's kind of you know, we grow all kinds of stuff here, which is just fabulous. And I've another thing that I absolutely love, and yeah, if you get the opportunity to ever grow guanabana, which is soursop, that is just my favorite fruit here in Costa Rica. It's so delicious, but it's so good for you as well. It's just like it's like a miracle tree. Like the fruit, they make it into smoothies here, so they'll just cube it up and put it with some water with some ice. I don't have it with sugar. Don't particularly eat sugar, but it's just delicious. It's such a beautiful fruit. So there's so many options you've got when you've got a bit of land and you can grow. And so I'm excited for the kids.
Yes, and going back to the idea of nature being an amazing healer, I'm mentioning the same elder from Zimbabwe. When he was born, he was so sick. The doctors told the parents, take him home because he's going to die. The
Oh well.
elders of the village told the mother, just go and build a shelter in the forest and stay with the baby for 3 weeks, no other interaction, just you and the baby. Don't do anything else. Just nurse him as you will do if you are home. After
Hmm.
3 weeks, the baby was healed just by
Hmm.
being in nature.
Yep, that's it. There's an energy to it. And I think, you know, if we can get back to sort of natural medicines and even tapping into indigenous knowledge, because they know the land, they know the medicines, they know what to do. If you can tap into that, it's phenomenal. And what I love here is it's kind of you can meet people here coming just speaking from my own experience here in Costa Rica, but you can meet people with links to the indigenous. And so some of the ways that they treat things, for instance, definitely come from the indigenous. And you know, you can pick up tips and tricks, and they know which leaves to use and which roots to use, and it's just amazing. But if we can tap into that body of knowledge, you know, obviously, you know, moving away from Western sort of pharmaceutical based sort of treatments and things like that, this planet gives us everything we could ever need. Everything we could ever need, you know, is derived here. So I think there's a huge body of knowledge and a huge potential there for us to get back to what's important and you know what's going to be benefiting us in the best way possible.
Yes, let's bankrupt these companies in our lifetime.
100%. 100%, you know, definitely. And I think it's going to go that way. You know, it's what's that saying that the pharmaceutical or the medical industry, which is, you know, a patient cured is a customer lost. So,
Yeah.
you know, why would, you know, it's just phenomenal. You know, when I look at some of the people that I work with and I've helped, you know, certainly with things like pain and trauma and things like that, some of these people have, you know, doctors, they don't get to the root cause of it. All they do is just medicate, and you know, antidepressants, and people just being on these things for years. And it's fine, it dumbs people's emotional state down. And so it flatlines people's emotions. And okay, they don't feel bad, but they never feel great either. It's just hollow. And so, you know, I think the thing is to always get to the root of whatever's the problem is and fix the root, and everything takes care of itself. And I think that, like I say, it's I certainly see moving forwards that society as a whole is there'll be a rejection of this kind of thing and people moving more towards natural based options basically. And especially, you know, it's I think what happened, choosing my words carefully here, I think, you know, a lot of people had their eyes opened in 2020 and 2021, let's say, to the medical industry, etc. And I think a lot of people now are like, "Oh, hang on, maybe there's now an alternative. I don't now want to particularly trust the system, so maybe there's another way." So maybe that, in a way, is a catalyst for change, and I certainly look forward to it. I share your sentiment completely on it.
Yes, I really hope so too. And that's why I promote the alternative ways of healing every single time I have a chance throughout these interviews, because there are hundreds of other options for people which are sick, and everything is emotionally based, energy based, trauma based, and anything can be healed with by applying a different type of energy to the body.
100%. And like you say, even our bodies are energetic, like I say, everything is just energy, frequency, and vibration. Our bodies are just our organs, etc., all sit within a perfectly balanced energetic system. And quite often, where people who are experiencing sort of sickness and things like that, there's an energetic reason for it. Either there's a blockage somewhere, or there's some kind of imbalance. One thing knocks onto another thing like this, and I think moving forwards, I think you've got metaphysical healers and things like this. I think the world will go this way, definitely. Consciousness will definitely become mainstream, for sure. And I know um, basically it's just a case of just understanding that times are changing, that we're just moving with it. We're moving towards fifth dimensional consciousness. We're moving into the light as a planet. The frequency is shifting on the planet, and we're kind of going along for the ride as the inhabitants of this beautiful place. So there's a sense for me of inevitability about the whole thing. It's just a case of, it's not when, but just if this happens. Sorry, it's not a case of if, but just when this happens.
Yes, exciting times ahead of us. And Aeron, I know you have your own programs, and I'd like to know if you attract more men than women, because it's a fact that we are stubborn. Sometimes we are narcissistic. We want things to go our way. But it's in our detriment, because again, that energy, it's up inside us, and we don't find the happiness, personal happiness, family happiness. So do you see that you attract more men than women?
That's a great question. And it's something that we do look at, because I do look at ratios within the thing, and I look at demographic, what age groups and things like this, because I'm like, okay, well, can we reach out and reach more people who, perhaps, we're not quite getting through to, because it's for everybody. But in answer to your question, it's definitely more women than men, but that dynamic is shifting, and I'm definitely seeing more men coming to this. Because I think what it is women are just beautifully in tune with their emotions and are happy to speak about their emotions, and so and are kind of happy to explore these kinds of things. Whereas what you're dealing with up to a certain point is male ego and pride. And so it's difficult. Even if the guy is interested in it, he kind of doesn't want to admit it in front of people, because in case people think he's daft, right? And I think what happens is men just come to the party later, and that's what we're seeing. So women are always first to the party, and they have been for years and years, and it's kind of accepted within society now. But I think, men are coming to the party. Men are just, more late to it. And I think what happens is as usually a crisis, or there's something severe that sort of brings on an awakening in men, and they start to go through this healing process. And then all of a sudden the ego starts to go to one side, and it doesn't control things anymore. It's still there, but it's just moved down the road to the house down the road. And then at that point, it's like, well, actually, I'm going to start to explore this. So I just personally think we are seeing a change. We are seeing more men come into this. And like I say, it just draws me back. I think men are just always late to the party with this kind of thing, but they are coming in numbers now, which is great.
Yes, yes, we have to convince them that they need help no matter what.
Mhm.
Even, I mean, again, if they heal themselves, then the personal and family life will be much more fulfilling, and they have to look at it from that perspective.
Oh, definitely. I've experienced it personally from both sides. I've lived my life as an unhealed person. I remember how that felt, and I remember what my life was like, and I know what it's like now. And I think it's a blessing. Your relationships definitely improve. Your perspective improves. You wake up from a sense of peace rather than, from a place of maybe anger or frustration. you're not triggered anymore. It's just a calm, groovy, cool place to be. And I would recommend it to everybody, go through the healing journey. If anybody watching this is thinking about doing this and going back into the shadows and healing that stuff, I promise you it's worth it. Just be courageous and go back there and fix it. But it is hard, it is tough, because we as guys, we kind of think that we've got it all under control. And I was the same. I was like, no, I don't need to deal with that. I don't want to go back there. No, 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 no. And then sooner or later, I got to the point where I was forced to go back. It was like the universe came and just, punched me square in the jaw and brought me across to where I should have been sort of 24 years ago. But I think times are changing, and we're definitely seeing more men come into this. And I think that the more men come to this, it kind of sets a positive example for the other men too, because other guys watching this will be like, okay, oh, breath work, oh, okay, meditation, oh, what are you doing? And it's really cool, because I remember a friend of mine, I've known him for 20 years. I won't name him on here, but I've known him. He's an Australian, salt of the earth guy from Australia, as a metal worker, right? Just big, burly guy. And if anybody knows that generation from Australia, just man's man, right? But loveliest guy in the world, the kindest, nicest guy, but went through a lot when he was younger, right? And I didn't know this, but I was kind of started telling him about what I was doing, and working with my consciousness and stuff like that. And I was thinking, there was a part of me thinking, right, okay, how's this going to go down? Is he going to think I'm strange or whatever? But I thought, you know what, this is who I am. I'm just going to share it with him. He's a friend. And then I found out that he quietly had his own little meditation room in the house that he'd built from the third bedroom, little sofa, and he used to go in and meditate after work. And this is a metal work, and I'm like, wow, this tells a story. It's indicative, right? Because, if somebody like my friend, who's just, boom, guy's guy, if this guy is doing it, surely there's other people out there, but they're just doing it quietly. They're just not kind of shouting about it, And I think the more men come to this, it's almost like those quiet guys then get permission to kind of come out of the closet, so to speak, and just go, actually, yeah, I do meditate. Yeah, actually, I do believe in energy. Because it's there. It's just people, I think, are a little bit shy to talk about it.
Yeah.
Definitely is coming.
And I see that attitudes changed in my boys, which are adults now. And yeah, at the beginning they thought that I may be strange, but then I share with them every single outcome from my sacred plant ceremonies. And of course, I don't know if they share with their friends, because they didn't want to share how odd their father is. But now they are listening more and more to what I have to say, to the feedback I receive. So there is hope there that not in the distant future they might even try it for themselves.
Oh, honestly, it's like, the thing is, it's you know, you're leading by example. You're the best example. And if that's the thing to think about. And I think that they will. I think what happens is, though, everybody has to go through their own seasons. So if I look at what I'm doing now, my goodness me, my third eye opened for the first time when I was 20. So I was early 20s, and I couldn't control it. It scared the life out of me, because it was like everything was trying to come through at the same time. I went, no. And it was only later on in my life that I came to doing this. This is actually the universe bringing me to where I should have been 24 years ago. But was I ready for it back then? No. So, if when I think at how I was when I was a kid, kind of growing up, I needed to go out there and experience what I needed to experience. It'd be the same probably for your kids, and they need to go through this season, and then they'll have this season where they will come to it. And it'll just be at the time where the energies are timely and the timing is right, basically. But we just kind of need to do what we need to do. I look back, and I'm grateful for every single experience that I had, even when, before I was awakened and doing what I'm doing now. I still think that those memories and experiences made me who I am today, and a valued part of my experience. So I think they'll come to it. I think it's just a seasonal thing.
Yeah, I agree. I planted the seed and I plant another seed every single day. And I go with the flow and I understand their time will come when their time will come. So I totally agree.
100%. And but one of the things that I've learned is that it's especially with my journey, it's like I had to come to these things myself. Nobody could have forced me into doing this and pushed me down this path. I would have resisted it. But I think what will happen is, and again, don't forget that as you're growing and developing and evolving, your energetic signature is changing. And so, your vibrational signature is increasing, your energy is getting stronger. And because obviously you're connected, you're almost be affecting them by osmosis. And so we affect one another and influence one another energetically all the time. It just happens. This is just how it is. It's just the laws of energy. And so your frequency is having an influence on them. So at some point, what will happen is it'll be like, okay, Dad, what are you doing? And they'll just be curious about what you're doing and they'll come to it themselves, but they'll do it from a place of curiosity. I think, and I definitely sense that they will come to it for sure.
And in fact, I mentioned that to them 2 weeks ago. I said, you are in my sphere, my energetic sphere of influence, and their jaw dropped. Said,
Yes.
there is nothing you can do about that. I said, there is
Yeah.
nothing you can do.
It's
You're
not what it
under
is.
my, yeah. So they laughed and they said, okay, you will evolve with me. Maybe
Mhm.
slower, but as long as you are in my energetic sphere of influence,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's it just is what it is. The family, you're connected, your energetic fields are connected. So, they just will be affected by osmosis. But you're setting a fantastic example. And so just I think it's just a case of exercising patience because they will come to it, but they just need to come to it in their own time. Because I think for something to be long lasting, it's got to be something that somebody is interested in themselves rather than being under pressure from a relation or a family member, because then it's a case of, okay, well, I'll do it, but I'll just go through the motions and I can't wait to stop it. I'm just going to go off and do something else. But I think, it's we're growing and evolving constantly. And, even on a subconscious level, your kids are observing you and kind of seeing what you're doing, and it's kind of getting in there. And I think it's just living a good example, isn't it? Because actually, what you're experiencing now is the truth. This is it.
Yes.
This is kind of when you look at metaphysical, when you look at things metaphysically, you look at the quantum field, you look at the ether, you look at energy, frequency, vibration. This is the truth. It's just we're not taught this stuff in schools. We've just got to come to this truth and this realization after that education system and after we've probably partaken in the system. But what's awesome is the fact that your kids are young. So, you think I eventually came to this after the universe brought me here after decades of being in that system. So I don't want to say that that's lost time, but it's kind of, I think when kids come to it early, then, they don't have to go through that period of being in the system so much, being plugged into the matrix. They're kind of free and sovereign, which is awesome.
Yeah, and the cherry on the cake was when one of their friends, a girl, came over, and when she heard that I meditate, she looked at my younger son and said, "Do you know how lucky you are that your father meditates?" And I laughed. I just couldn't help myself, and it was so funny.
Yeah, that's it. So it's like I say, you're the cool dad that meditates. So that's cool, right? That's the thing. And I think what's really, really cool is that, when they come to it, because they will, it's just a case of, you can just help them. You've got experience at that point and you can help them grow and develop because kids have just got such an incredible, incredible connection to source.
Yeah.
Open, their channel is open, they live in the moment, it's just flowing constantly. And then what happens is that the system just switches that off slowly and just gets them inside of their head instead of actually with their consciousness.
Mm.
So I think good on you and stick with it. Don't get disheartened. I see that it'll be all great. You'll just be this power family when it comes to consciousness and energy. It'll be amazing.
Thank you. Aaron, do you want to go a little bit deeper in any of the programs you are working on and you think will help people?
So people obviously can explore my website, which is aeronlazar.com. People can go there, have a look at that. We have a membership, which is called the Quantum Club. That's like our consciousness development school. We've been running that for 4 years now. And we meet for weekly sessions within that. That's like a Jedi School of Light. So it basically teaches people how to develop their consciousness. We do all kinds of sessions within their channel Q&As. We teach people spiritual protection. We have consciousness immersions. There's all kinds of stuff. It's amazing. So that's the Quantum Club. There's a program that we run once a year called Transcending Dimensions. What that does is it teaches complete energetic mastery, but it changes somebody's energetic signature. So on a 6-month journey, takes somebody through a complete healing process, lifts all the ancestral patterns, karmic patterns, distorted subconscious programming, plus all the pain and trauma frequency that's within the body, then brings online all the spiritual skill sets and abilities like reading Akashic records, activating people's light languages, all of this kind of good stuff, teaching people how to channel, because anybody can do it. It's not that, there are chosen ones or people who have template holders who are just kind of floating down off a cloud. Anybody with a pineal gland, a soul and a consciousness can do it. You just need to be shown how to do it. We've all got the equipment. And it's basically bringing everybody's spiritual abilities online. And then the last part of the program, we teach total energetic mastery. So this is mastery of your own energetic field. You have 2 energetic streams. You've got one from Gaia, one from Source. They're controlled with your breath. Basically, on the in-breath, you strengthen the stream from Gaia. On the exhale, you strengthen the stream from the cosmos. You can bend these consciously in different directions to do different things, create things like torsion fields around yourself. We teach that, which is important on a sovereignty perspective. And then we teach people about feng shui principles and classical feng shui. So not making your house look like a Chinese restaurant with the lucky cats and the CDs and painting walls. That basically, in the words of our feng shui master a few years ago, he said the new age feng shui stuff is nonsense. That just, they brought that in so they could sell more trinkets. That's what he said to us. So basically where the power is in the classical system, which in a nutshell is that the landforms around your house generate the chi, generate the energy. They're like power stations for it. It then flows down, what the Chinese call dragon veins. That's like mini ley lines. It gathers in water. And then somewhere in the middle of that network is your house. And then there's different sectors within the house that do different things and things like that. So it's about mastery of yourself and then mastery of the energy of your environment. And basically, by the time people go through that process, their lives have completely transformed. And it's called Transcending Dimensions. There's a plethora of reviews on the website and testimonials from people who have experienced it. But quite simply, what happens is that once somebody's energetic frequency signature changes, what happens is that the universe then starts to manifest a new reality. Because what happens is your energetic signature, whatever it is that is in your life right now, you are a perfect match for it. Perfect match for it. You are in perfect resonance with whatever it is in your reality. Good, bad, it doesn't matter. The universe also doesn't care about your feelings. Okay, so it's not a case of if you feel hard done by, universe doesn't care. It's like a computer program running on autopilot. This is how it works. And so the frequency signature that you send out is like programming instructions for the universe to send you the physical reality. And so this is why what happens is when people go through the law of attraction, the secret, manifestation, and all of this kind of stuff, this is why half the time it doesn't work. And this is why people get frustrated. This is why it doesn't matter if you have 30 vision boards and you're trying to call in this life of your dreams. If your energetic signature doesn't match it, forget it. So you can manifest it for decades and it's just not gonna happen. And so the only way that you can change your reality is by changing your energetic signature. You have to sort it out. Like it's, everybody, until you do this work, your energetic house is just full of this clutter. It's full of pain and trauma programs, all this kind of stuff. And then what happens is once somebody's energetic signature has changed, reality begins to change. And so what we notice and what we see and what we've seen is that things which are not in resonance in people's lives then start to drift away and the universe starts to replace it with new things. And so by about month 5 or 6 of the programs, people's realities are beginning to shift. and it's phenomenal. It's just something it's so unique, and it's just something we're so proud of. We run it every year, so we're about to take 2025's group. We're starting on the 6th of January, just after the holiday season, and it's going to be a powerful 6 month journey. So there's that. Ria has also, you can check her website, rialovegard.com. She's got a light language course. We run the Quantum Club together. So there's a whole heap of ways that we can work together. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so I'll put a link to the course. Even if this interview will be posted in January, people should have the chance to register in December.
Yeah, for sure. And also, if people miss out on the January intake, there's always a waiting list, so you can put yourself down on the waiting list for. We run them just annually. It's a very powerful process, and we I don't know. We couldn't really run them back to back and just keep doing them. We need a break after doing it, basically, because it's a very, very intense process. So it's we run it for 6 months, we rest it for 6 months, and then we run it for 6 months, and it kind of rolls like that. So like I say, we've got 2025's is about to start on the 6th of January, but there will obviously, if you miss the intake, then please feel free to put yourself on the waiting list for the following year.
Thank you. Aeron, we are towards the end of this lovely discussion. Any final words?
Well, it's been a pleasure to connect. I don't do these very often, I must say. And it's not because I don't love connecting with people. I just love splendid isolation. I just love being in the jungle surrounded by nature. But I must say it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really, really enjoyed speaking to you. And thank you very, very much for having me on.
Thank you very much. Much love from me and to you and Ria. All the best.
Thank you so much.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, leave a comment, visit spiritualinspired.ca, YouTube, and Gnostic TV for more episodes. And until next time, love and gratitude.